The Ugandan invasion of the Congo is really fascinating and interesting. I believe that for us who live in Uganda, or for us Ugandan, if we had paid attention to the geopolitics of the region, we would have seen the signs and we would have seen this coming. And I can blame myself also. Because what is really interesting is, well, as I'm looking at what is likely to happen next, I've been forced to look at what happened before the invasion and before the occupation of the Democratic Republic of the Congo by the Ugandan forces. Now, a closer look a few months back, we see that the United States of America in August, around the 19th and the 20th of August 2021, deployed a US Special Forces in the eastern part of Congo, to be specific, around the North Kivu area, where Ugandan forces are occupying today, or where Ugandan forces are being deployed today in conjunction with the Democratic Republic of Congolese forces in one way or the other. Now, the number of troops that were deployed, the number of special forces troops that were deployed in this area was unknown, which is quite interesting. So when I read through this particular story of the US troops being deployed in August, and I will show you why this is very interesting and why this connects so well with my hypothesis, or with my analysis that the US is somewhere and somehow heavily involved in the invasion of the Congo by the Ugandan troops, because they want to counter the Chinese as well as the Russians in the region. And I'm going to explain these reasons as to why. Now, when I read about this story, it is all over. You can Google it and you can find it on CGTN, Daily Monitor, and so many other news sources. They actually covered it, that the US had deployed these particular individuals, the so-called special forces, and we know they are some of the most elite units in the US military, the Green Berets, the special forces, and so on and so forth. Usually it is a small unit of people that are being deployed in an area, but they are really, really highly effective. And the reason as to why they were deployed in the eastern part of Congo, guess what? It is to fight the ADF. It is to fight the so-called ISIS. And it was part of a plan to fight the global coalition against the Islamic State. You remember the one who said that ADF was part of ISIS? It is the United States of America, through which guys, the Bridgewater guys, who did the Coney 2012 movie. I mean, I won't even go back into that. If you have not watched those episodes, please go back. Now, back to the point. So, after this invasion, you might ask a question that, okay, Mayanja, when these guys were deployed, did they beat any ADF guys? Did they defeat them? Did they do anything? Now, it depends. Usually, the US deploys special forces to carry out exercises, to train, and do all this kind of stuff. But also, special forces at times are deployed for specific missions to kill and capture, as well as to do training. Now, for this particular mission, according to the US Embassy website, in Kinshasa, I think that's the capital of the Democratic Republic of Congo, because I was wondering, did these special forces guys leave? Are they still in the Congo? Are they also looking for ADF? Are they the ones in control of the search for the ADF and the attack on the ADF, while these other troops are used as proxies in one way or the other? Well, when I made my research, it showed that these people left a month later in September, according to the US website, that they had left and that they were part of a mission to help train the Congolese soldiers and also to assess their capabilities if they are able to take on the so-called ADF or IS militia in one way or the other. Now, in a statement from the US ambassador in the Democratic Republic of Congo, this is what he said while they were leaving. Promoting peace and stability is key element of the US-DRC privileged partnership, particularly focused on ending the violence and suffering in Eastern DRC, said Mike Hammer, the US ambassador to DRC. During the recent assessment mission, it was called assessment mission of the armies of the DRC. Quote, during the recent assessment mission, the U.S. Special Forces team used its knowledge of fighting ISIS around the world towards helping the Congolese armed forces evaluate what is needed for them to successfully prosecute campaigns against the ISIS DRC and against other armed groups who conduct illicit economic exploitation of DRC's national parks as a funding source for abusing and terrorizing the Congolese people. Not the Congolese people, not the Ugandan people. This is according to the US website, the US Embassy. This mission reflects the United States' continuing support and commitment to the DRC government's efforts to provide security for its citizens. The US Africa Command and Special Operations Forces are committed to mutually beneficial engagement with its partners. End of story. So, the Special Forces Commandos came and left in September, and I think that is where this video ends. And technically, there is nothing there. Okay, thank you very much. Let us meet in the next video. And please do not forget to support the channel on Patreon and, help us to do this kind of work and give you independent analysis that is factually based, that is based on research, and so on and so forth. All right, see you. Bye-bye. You know very well, I cannot come here to waste my time just to give you half-baked information. Now listen very carefully, because this is where it is very important. The United States cannot just deploy the so-called special forces without a very, very strong and clear motive. Now, these motives at times when they deploy these special forces are not told to the citizens of a particular nation, or even the government at times do not know about these particular operations, and so on and so forth. So it is the so-called secret world of the US commandos in Africa. That is an article that I found on Pulitzer.com that was talking about the secret world of US commandos. And when I read through the article, there are so many things that actually connected with what is happening today in the Congo. Because in the article, they say that rarely people know about these missions and activities. That is, the people in the US as well as people in countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo. They are very, very low-profile missions. And that's why such missions or such involvement actually skipped most of us who were not following up most of these particular events. And now, by Uganda getting involved, we are now connecting the dots back to this particular US Special Forces involvement in the Congo in August 2021. Now, you should understand that the US has deployed commandos in different parts of the world, but 14% of those commandos, according to this article by Pulitzer, are deployed in Africa, which is actually one of the biggest deployments around the world of commandos all over the world. Now, you should also understand that the US has 29 military bases in the world, in Africa, and 29 military bases around the world, and 15 of them are in Africa. Now, that really shows that there is really a very, very big involvement of the US Special Forces as well as military in Africa, meaning that Africa is now it's going to become a battleground between the US as well as US and China as well as Russia. You cannot deploy 15, half of your military bases being on the African continent, if at all Africa is not strategically important to you, and not because of ISIS, not because of terrorism. This is all done for geopolitical importance and also to counter and fight the rising dominance of the Chinese as well as the Russians. Now, what we see is that the US has a military base in Kenya and Uganda, that is at Entebbe Airport, but it does not have a military base in the Congo. It does not have a military base in Central African Republic and all these other areas out of the 29 military bases. Now, you should understand that today you can afford to miss having a military base anywhere, but at least have a military base in the Congo because of the reasons that I've explained in previous videos. We also understand that the missions or the missions of these special forces usually are to capture or kill and also to do some bit of training of different armed forces. And for this matter, the ambassador claims, Mike Hammer, that the US Special Forces had gone to assess and train the armed forces of the DRC, not Uganda. because I will show you where Uganda comes in. Now, also, with the so-called training and all this kind of stuff that they do, intelligence and all this kind of stuff, there is a special kind of operation conducted under the so-called 127E program. 127E program. Now, that's found in the Constitution of the United States of America. It is in the U.S. Code, Section 127E, which says that which funds classified programs to use units of African governments or units of foreign forces as surrogate teams in direct action and reconnaissance missions. Now, special operations conducted. Now, these special operations are conducted by U.S. Special Forces. And I firmly believe that the U.S. Special Forces that were in Congo in August 2021 were under this special operation known as the so-called 127E program. Now, the 127E program is found in the U.S. Constitution in U.S. Code Section 12E, which says that funds are classified. Which funds classified programs to use units from African governments as surrogate teams in direct action and reconnaissance missions. Now, I'm going to show you why that is very, very important, because I did my research here. Now, you should understand that these guys, under this program, what they do is that they make sure that they have low involvement of U.S. troops. That is why they use special forces. Now, this is very beneficial to the Americans because, number one, it is low cost. Number two, there is no risk for personnel. That is the military personnel of the American military. Also, there is no big U.S. army deployments in one way or the other. And it is the same thing that we see in the Congo. But in the end, the U.S., remains with control over the forces that are being involved in this particular area of interest or in this particular fight against the so-called ADF or ISIS in one way or the other. Now, it is said that in the program, the burden of waging war is on two local partners, while the Americans retain the operational control over the mission. So the Americans maintain the entire control over the mission. Like literally everything. And I can tell you, I can assure you that drones might be flying around Eastern Congo and so much might be happening in Eastern Congo, drones flying and all this kind of stuff. And that is why you see the Ugandans are now throwing those missiles left, right, and center in one way or the other. And you would ask, why are they sending these missiles? How did they get these, coordinates and all this kind of stuff, right? You should be asking those questions. But now, this is what is very important. That in this section, the Secretary of Defense is allowed to spend close to $1 million in one fiscal year to support foreign forces, irregular forces, groups, and individuals that are combating terrorism. So you might be asking, where is Uganda getting the money to get itself involved in the Congo? Where is the money coming from to fight against the ADF? Because that money has to come from somewhere. And we know very well that African economies right now have been battered by the COVID-19 pandemic. So where are they going to get the money? The Chinese loans are in our throats. So where is the money coming from? Now you know where the funding comes from. It is coming from the United States of America under a special program known as 127E, which is very clandestine and that does not, or it is not openly known by different individuals. But thank God that such information is out there that you can read it today and then you can sieve through and understand all this kind of stuff. So if you're asking, where does the money come from? The money is directly coming from the Americans. So you're saying, okay, but Mayanja, then how does Uganda come in? Why is this so important? I mean, it doesn't make sense all of a sudden. Now, it makes sense if at all you go back in 2018. The United States of America Defense Strategy and Priorities, it released the so-called 2018 Defense Strategy that said that it would prioritize great power competition against its enemies like Russia and China ahead of terrorism. Because what we are seeing today is that terrorism is actually taking a back seat. And what they are doing, apparently, is that they are trying to counter or they are trying to play a big part in great power competition that is between America as well as powers like China as well as Russia. Now, what this means is that today, as you understand in my previous episodes, I've explained to you, because of climate change and all this kind of stuff, we are shifting towards electric batteries, and the biggest deposits of cobalt in the world are found in the Democratic Republic of Congo, as well as other mineral wealths. Now, terrorism is being used as a boogeyman in order to get involved in the Congo, in order to create military bases in the Congo, and all these other things in one way or the other. So, when you're talking about combating terrorism, or when you're talking about fighting the ADF, right, we all know very well that the Congolese military is not equipped enough. And what is fascinating is that the US ambassador, according to their assessment, did not clarify that the Congolese army is either capable of fighting the ADF or not. So they left it hanging and open, ambiguous. Now, what that implies is that the US had to call on, because you cannot fight the ADF without looking into Uganda. And you cannot fight any war or any insurgency as well as militia, quite carefully in Congo without looking at a capable army that you have involved in the Sudan, a capable army that you have used in Somalia and all these other regional conflicts. And guess which army that is? Ha ha ha! Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So after all this assessment, remember in this section 127, they claim that they will support foreign forces. They will support irregular forces, groups and individuals in combating the so-called war on terror, or in combating terrorism. Now, what happened is this. When these special forces commandos took part in this exercise, when they came to the Congo in August 2021, around the 19th, we saw that Uganda, of course, must have approached Uganda, and the Ugandan army was, very well, which is available as well as redundant. But then, how would Uganda get involved in the Congo on behalf of the US? Because the US now needs the Ugandan army to go and create cover for them in order to do their operations and in order to counter the Chinese in cobalt mines. And it is the same area, which is really fascinating. And why is it that they are only targeting the ADF, the militia, and there are over 140 militias that are operating in the eastern part of Congo? I mean, this is really, really, really deep geopolitical, things that you really have to study closely in one way or the other to understand and connect the dots. But what we see here is this, that, of course, Uganda needed a motive to go into the Congo. And after these so-called special forces guys who were carrying out their operations, the bombs started to happen. On August the 19th, that is when the special forces went in the Congo. Then we saw on the 27th of August, bombs started by saying that a bomber had happened at the former IGP's burial or locate, that someone was trying to blow up his body on the 27th of August. On the 8th of October, a police post was blown up at Kawempe, but no one died. On the 23rd, a pork joint was blown up at Komamboga. On the 25th of October, this is from August, by the way, then bombs started, On the 25th of October, another bomb blast happened. And then on the 16th of November, we had the big blast. And after the big blast, we now see Ugandan troops being deployed in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Does that come as a coincidence? I don't know. But, trust me, if you go and read about these things, if you make and connect the dots, where we see that the US special forces were there to look for the ADF. What happened? Did you guys get the ADF? I mean, what really happened? Tell us what really happened. And also, what is very fascinating and important is the silence of the Americans on the invasion of the Congo by the Ugandan military. So by silence, it means that either the two are in cahoots, or it means that Maybe they're just letting Uganda do what it does best. But do you really believe that invading the Congo, right, where the US was a few months before in August, do you think that would go down well with the Americans? Really? The American special forces have just left and then the Ugandan troops have invaded? Does that look good and the US does not put out a statement? Let me tell you, wherever these special forces guys have been involved, so much has happened. Kano Doumbouya, he was attending a military exercise with the special forces in Guinea. Afterwards, he overtook the government. He underwent the same exercise, the same operation with the gentleman known as Assimi Goita, a flintlock exercise in the Sahel. And then these two governments were overthrown. We have seen special forces, taking place in Djibouti, Somalia, and all these other regions. What is happening there? And all these areas are of strategic importance to the United States of America in countering the Chinese as well as the Russians. Thank you very much for listening. More analysis will be coming your way. But please endeavor to support us on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Those of you who need links and who want to know more about these particular things and issues and connecting the dots and opening your minds, and getting information that is analytical, that is factually based, that is, that can make you think very much more different from the mainstream media, you will always find the videos here. But please endeavor to support us on Patreon. My name is Fazil Mayanja, and thank you very much for watching. Let us meet in the next video.